A classified CIA book dated 1965 predicts of a modern-day pole shift. We know pole shifts have happened many times in the past, and it's recorded in the rocks. The magnetism of the Earth at that time is locked into the rocks, and that's how they find there was a pole shift where the North Pole or South Pole were. As popular wisdom says, there's nothing new under the moon, and everything new is well forgotten old. And now, following this wonderful rule, conspiracy theorists have dug up a book published in 1965. It talks in detail about the pole shift, its cause, and the time of the next pole shift. The author of the book is Thomas Chan, and it's called The True Story of Adam and Eve. And as the author of the book published in 1965 was withdrawn from sale and classified by the CIA, and only recently the CIA posted it on its website of declassified documents. So why did they re-upload it after they classified it? Very strange. Only 50 pages of the book were published, though, and about 150 more pages remained in the Secret of America, where the world behind the scenes compared its dark plans. Now, the story, of course, turned out to be interesting and surprising, but in real life everything is slightly different. As it turns out, modern geology upside down, it allows us to understand when the poles will shift and why. Thomas Chan is his pseudonym, by the way, was an engineer at McDonnell Douglas who worked on anti-gravity issues, magnetic fields, and missile guidance systems. And naturally, such a person was provided a high-level security clearance by the CIA, and his little book was also classified. Dr. Chan was extremely fond of making quick notes of ideas that came to his head, drawing doodles anywhere and everywhere, including on his refrigerator. He also drew something in the margins of one of the copies of his creation, so the men in black seized the book and placed it in a safe so that no one else would see the scribbles of this great engineer. The remaining copies of the book are freely available in every sufficiently large library, and the following is written. It says that the stories of geologists about the mantle being liquid are the delusions of weak-minded people who understand very little about electrical forces. Dr. Chan, as a secret engineer at McDonnell Douglas, who worked on these fields in anti-gravity, understood much more about the topic, and according to him, the Earth inside is quite solid, only the core is liquid. This hardness is ensured by a special structure of magnetic and electric fields, which can be arranged in an experiment. They turn the mantle into one huge crystal. And if the mantle were liquid, then the lithosphere would spin on the mantle like on a bearing. However, once every 500 or even 5,000 years, the structure of the magnetic field of the core is disrupted, and if during normal operations these fields play the role of reinforcement, then this reinforcement appears in some places. This is especially true for the outermost layer of the mantle, which is farthest from the core and its fields. At this glorious moment, when the magnetic fields are disrupted and the mantle directly below the lithosphere becomes liquid, like magma flowing from a volcano, the lithosphere loses connection with the main mass of the planet and begins to slide on it under the influence of centrifugal forces. This happens because there is never mass balance on the planet. After each displacement of the lithosphere, water begins to freeze at the new poles, and the crustal shift seems to solve this balancing problem. New poles come to the equator. The ice there melts, and for some time the balance is restored. There's no such theory in official geology, but it seems to us that Chan understood much more about electricity than many today, and most likely everything is as Chan writes. And so it is. In Dr. Chan's book from 1965, there are indeed 50 pages. The CIA in this regard speaks only the truth, but not the whole truth. In 1993, in his declining years, Dr. Chan decided to write a sequel to the book, and with the continuation, they were just secrets. the agents took something from there because the engineer talked too much about his work at McDonnell Douglas, about anti-gravity and the aliens who use this technology. However, something remains in the updated book. As Dr. Chan writes in 1993, everything has gone wrong with the planet's magnetic fields, and the magnetic poles are moving at a speed of about 10 kilometers per year. That's about 6 miles. Well, while now this speed is about 50 kilometers per year, according to the engineer, 10 kilometers a year will not end the matter. The movement of the poles will significantly accelerate, he said. And at one fine moment, the planet's magnetic system will weaken so much that the thin layer of the surface mantle directly under the lithosphere will become liquid for several tens of hours. It will lose its reinforcing fields, and then the lithosphere will shift. In 1993, Dr. Chan assumed that magnetic fields would weaken enough for a shift to occur around the year 2000. Well, we know we have a weakening of our magnetic field, and they don't know why it's happening. Now, he was wrong about this, but what is 20 years in geological terms? These are microseconds. He was not mistaken in the main thing, that the field reinforcement of the mantle will weaken, and now a shift of the lithosphere can happen any day. Just one good solar flare is enough to finish off the Earth's magnetic field. Now, why did they need to redact this information? Because we're not supposed to know our real history. We don't have to know the reality of anything because that would give us power. We don't have to know that we live in a plasma universe, which is something Thomas also talked about in his book. And after the book was declassified by the CIA, all of its most important parts were removed. The story of Adam and Eve talks about the theories of lost time and falsification of history and suggests that there were many technological advanced ancient civilizations on Earth before us. There is overwhelming evidence that we are the sixth advanced civilization to exist on this Earth, destroyed by disaster every time. And when this happens, the mantle that holds our land in its current position turns to jelly, causing the land to move 90 degrees while the water on the land remains in place. It's like dropping an object into a glass of water and then spinning the glass in a circle. The water stays in place while the world moves around it. So the world as we know it is erased in a few days, submerged in the ocean for 40 days. This is described in the tale of Gilgamesh or Noah and the Ark, until the poles complete their shift, after which the North Pole becomes the South Pole and vice versa. We believe the rest of the story, which has been edited, is about survivors forced to live in caves and resort to cannibalism to survive, things like that. And this is why the Aztecs and North American tribes tell stories of white men who visited them, gave them seeds to grow, and taught them how to harvest. And we also believe that those in power know this and want to keep it a secret perhaps, knowing full well that otherwise they may have mass unrest and will not be able to keep order. The book is definitely an interesting read, and there's a link to the unedited version of the book. And this is on Solask. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.